All right. Icebreakers delivered by DoorDash. Nice job by you, Frank, on that on that list. That list is outstanding. I love a free agent list. Can't wait for this summer market. I'm curious when you were compiling this list and you're talking to people around the league. What were there surprises? Were there things that you were, maybe just didn't know what was going to happen with this class of 22 coming up? First sort of free agent post-pandemic class, as it were.
Yeah, 6 weeks and 1 day until free agency opens on July 13th, and really having a chance to dig in and talk to agents and managers and different front office staff from around the league and compiling this list. What really stood out is really the amount of firepower. It's unprecedented in some ways, the accomplishments of the players that head to the top of this list, specifically in the top 5 or top 10. Johnny Gaudreau coming off that 115-point season. Philip Forsberg, a 42-goal scorer. Further down the list, you've got Chris Letang there, 68-point campaign and a Norris Trophy candidate over the years on the back end. But the firepower continues up front with guys like Claude Giroux, a Hart Trophy finalist, Evgeny Malkin, a Hart Trophy winner, and a Conn Smythe winner. And then Evander Kane, who had 38 goals or 35 goals in 58 games as an Edmonton Oiler, including the playoffs. Like, there's no shortage of firepower available this summer, Scott. What really stood out to me, though, is the lack of defensive depth that's available, or impact defensemen that are available. You look at Chris Letang is the one defenseman in the top 10. John Klingberg is there as well. Josh Manson, Ben Sherratt, Brett Kulak. Like, there's no guarantee that all these guys end up making it to market. Like Chris Letang, I think the Penguins are going to try and do everything that they can to keep him. I think he's their number one offseason priority now that Brian Rust is signed, even ahead of Evgeny Malkin. The Stars are going to try and entertain John Klingberg. I'm not sure that that's going to work out after his public trade request. They don't want to pay him more than they're paying Miro Heiskanen, which is understandable. Josh Manson and Ben Sherratt, they were trade deadline pickups, and Brett Kulak as well. But Manson and Sherratt have sort of had their moments. Ben Sherratt didn't play a lot in the playoffs for the Florida Panthers, certainly not to justify what was traded for him. And Josh Manson really struggled at times in this Western Conference final, especially in game 1 in Denver before bouncing back in game 2. So it gets thin in a hurry, and especially more so if Chris Letang ends up staying in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I was really curious about your top 5. Really interesting players there. And was there? Did you wrestle with how this top 5 unfolded for you? Were there some angst moments for you in coming up with the top 5?
Yeah, a little bit of angst in the sense that what you're always trying to do with this ranking is blend, overall impact along with total dollars that might be earned. And so you're talking to different people and you go, well, who is going to get more? Is it Philip Forsberg or is it Nazem Kadri? And usually I would lean towards the center in Kadri, and especially with the season that he had. If you factor in the playoffs, I think he's at 30 some goals and 114 points or 101 points. It's something, his numbers are incredible when you factor in the playoffs this year in terms of his production. Kadri's been excellent. Of course, now he's going to miss or likely to miss the Stanley Cup final. Does that impact his free agency? I don't think so. But Philip Forsberg, it's rare to see a play driving winger that scores 42 goals become available. Because of that, because he's a bit younger than Kadri. And I think this other factor is going to weigh in for all of the guys that end up coming out of Colorado, Scott, is the abs bump that Kadri got. Is what he produced this year repeatable and or sustainable on another team? That's what teams are going to be asking themselves, because it's not just Kadri that had a career year. Go down the list through all the different guys that have been in Colorado. Whether it's Andre Burakovsky, another free agent that's available. Even take a guy like Nicholas Aube-Kubel, who was a waiver wire pickup from the Flyers. To see these different guys come in and see their numbers expand in such a marked way, it's really given some teams pause in terms of then potentially paying these guys moving forward.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see how Nashville responds. I mean, David Poyle would love to keep Philip Forsberg in the fold. They've got some cap issues and some structural issues there, so it'll be interesting to see if they can work that out there. And I'm with you. I'm curious about Nazem Kadri because he's a little bit older, as you point out, but the fact he's a center, and I look around to teams that are maybe trying to get themselves over the hump. Carolina, they've got some UFA issues, but maybe there's a spot down the middle. To me, Nazem Kadri playing for Rod Brind'Amour, boy, that'd be a pretty good fit. But I am
Is he a
fascinated
first line center? That's what teams kept asking me, Scott. Is he a 1C? I don't know that he is.
Yeah, no, I think that's the thing. And you're right at that age. And then where does the term and the dollar fit in? A lot of questions there. But boy, you'd love to have a guy who did what Nazem Kadri did down the middle, because to me, he could be that final piece. And I think we saw that in Colorado. Let's pull back the lens a little bit to the top 10 surprises there. Maybe things that people should be keeping an eye on when you look at your top 10 on this excellent free agent list.
Yeah, I think at number 9, it's David Perron that really caught my eye. I was surprised to see some of the feedback that I got for Perron. I think a couple teams have listed David Perron as their top right winger available. I mentioned Burakovsky. Do you consider Evander Kane a left winger or a right winger? I guess it depends on how you look at it. But David Perron, with the season that he had, turned back the clock, 57 points in 67 games, a real impact player. And you can make the argument at varying points this year that Perron was the St. Louis Blues' best player for stretches. Rare to see that happen for a guy that's 34, that has shown no signs of decline. And so the Blues, for whatever reason, haven't been able to come to terms and get Perron locked up to a deal for next season and beyond. And so if he hits the market, well, you're looking at Perron, Burakovsky, Claude Giroux is somewhere in the mix. I'd argue that of those 3 guys, even though he may not have had the most points, Perron made the biggest impact this season among those players, also played fewer games as well at 67. So he certainly had a strong season and hits the free agent market at the right time.
He can only play in St. Louis, though, right? Like this is his 3rd go around there. He can't play anywhere else. I'm sorry. It's just it's got to happen. So it would be interesting.
If he signs somewhere else, he'll just end up coming back anyway.
Well, that's exactly.
That'll do it for our icebreakers for today. Top 50 free agents list. The full top 50 is available on dailyfaceoff.com. And icebreakers has been delivered by DoorDash. You see the promo codes there at the bottom of your screen. DFODD if you're in Canada, DFODD US if you're in the United States. Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Final goes on Tuesday night. You don't want to cook. All your favorites and more delivered right to your door by DoorDash.